Okay, Be'ezrat Hashem, Na'aseh v'Natzliach. I'd like to welcome you to Ironside Lunch and Learn. We have here, I'd like to give an honorable mention to our regular sponsors. We have Ofer Mizrahi from Ironside, Judah Mendel from Mendel Law, and our brand new sponsor, Hummus Factory. We really appreciate them sponsoring this whole Seudah over here. Delicious food. Amazing quality. Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll be able to continue the sponsorship over here with all that are involved. Also want to say thank you for our new guest that's here today, and for all the regulars, and all for the new people, and for the people that are watching online. Be'ezrat Hashem, you guys can share and like and pass this and promote Hashem and the Divrei Torah. Today we're starting, or this week we are starting a new Sefer, the last book of the Chamisha Chumshei Torah, Sefer Devarim. And the parasha begins with, Vaydaber Hashem, it doesn't say, I'm sorry, the parasha begins with, Ele hadevarim asher diber Moshe el kol Yisrael be'ever Yarden, bamidbar ba'arava mol suf, ben paran uven tofel ve'lavan ve'chatzerot ve'di zahav. A few interesting facts you should know. It says Ele hadevarim. If you take the gematria, the numerical value of the word Ele, Aleph is 1, Lamed is 30, Hey is 5, altogether is 36. The entire book of Devarim is over a span of 36 days. There's only 36 days from this moment that it starts until the death of Moshe Rabbeinu, which happens on Zayin Be'adar. By the way, Moshe Rabbeinu was born on Zayin Be'adar, and he passed away on Zayin Be'adar. Another interesting fact is it says over here in the whole Chumash, we see so many times the most commonly used pasuk, the most repetitive pasuk, Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe, Vayomer Hashem Moshe, Vaydaber Moshe el Hashem, or Vaydaber Hashem. This is like you see it hundreds and hundreds of times in the Chumash. In Sefer Devarim, not even one time. Not even one time do we have Vaydaber Hashem Moshe. Why? Ele advarim asher diber Moshe. This is a whole review of Moshe Rabbeinu, reviewing the whole 4 books, reviewing the whole 40 years experience with Am Yisrael, and he tells them, asher diber Moshe. Moshe is actually the one that's speaking to them. So right now we're getting a narrative of Moshe Rabbeinu to Am Yisrael. Sefer Devarim is also called a Mishneh Torah. Mishneh Torah is like a review. But in between this review, there's something else. There's a rebuke, a tochecha. Right off the bat, you can see in the beginning of the parasha, Moshe begins with a very, very unique way of tochecha, a very unique way of rebuking Am Yisrael. It's subtle. It's not in your face. It's not aggressive. It's very subtle. For example, when it says, Elu advarim asher diber Moshe el kol Yisrael be'ever Yarden, it says, Mul suf, ben paran, uben tofel, ve'lavan, ve'chatzerot, ve'di zahav. What are these places? If you go back in the past parashiyot, we don't even hear these names of places. The rabbis tell us, he wanted to protect their honor. He wanted to protect their kavod. He didn't want to tell them to their face, remember what you did in Yam Suf? Remember what you did in Har Sinai? Remember what you did with the Egel? Remember what you did when you were complaining about the food, about the man? He didn't tell them to directly. So what did he say? He says, remember Mol Suf. Remember when you were next to Yam Suf, there was a situation that we went through. He says, remember also Velavan. What's Velavan? The rabbis tell us it was talking about the man. They complained about the man. The man had a clear white color to it. So he didn't tell them, remember when you're complaining about the man that you wanted meat and you wanted vegetables? He says, Velavan, remember Lavan? And he also says, Vedi Zahav. What's Vedi Zahav? Di Zahav is the Egel that was made out of gold. He didn't tell them, remember the golden calf that you worshipped over there? No, he says, Vedi Zahav. You remember Vedi Zahav to what? It's more subtle. It's like I'm trying to make a point, but at the same time, I'm not hammering you. So a leader, you have to know what's the right thing to say at the right time. And Moshe Rabbeinu was a master at that. You can see right from the first pasuk, the Tochecha is a very unique way of doing it. Besides that, this whole book is actually an instruction. It's advice for Am Yisrael. He's leaving them. He's not continuing with them to Eretz Yisrael. So what is he going to do? It's his people. He loves them. He's their leader. He's been with them through thick and thin, through good and through bad. He is completely invested in the success of Am Yisrael. So now that he's gone, he doesn't just like hammer them and say, oh, you better do this, you better do that, and if not, you're going to get punished. He didn't do that. He was a beautiful leader that set everything in place. Right before he goes, he put everything in place the way it's supposed to be. Similarly, in a home, sometimes people get sick. They know they're going to go. They know there's a sickness, there's a disease, and then they're going to go. What do? People that have in the right mind frame, they take the family, they sit them down. You're in charge of this, you're in charge of that. The Yerusha, the inheritance goes to this, some goes to that, the other goes to the other part. Sometimes they involve lawyers. Why is it important? Because after the person passes, sometimes it becomes a very, very sticky situation. It becomes a situation where families split, families divide, families fight. So in order not to do that, you set everybody straight. We learned that from Moshe Rabbeinu. In his final days, the way he acted, the way he spoke, a lot of lessons to be learned over here. Plus, in addition, in this particular fifth sefer of the Chumash, there's about 200 mitzvot that are here. About 130 of aseh and about 70 of lo ta'aseh. So there's more mitzvot to be learned over here before it's all said and done. Now, this instruction of the leader of Am Yisrael for all the future generations, it's a carefully calculated rebuke. And the first few Pesukim, Moshe Rabbeinu takes them through all these, like we just mentioned, all these different scenarios, all these different events that happened while they were in the desert. He also is instructed to write the Torah in 70 different languages. And he even cleared up the path of Am Yisrael to enter Eretz Yisrael without any enemies. How do we see that? Right before he gave this rebuke, Moshe Rabbeinu fought the two toughest enemies of Am Yisrael, or the two toughest enemies that were on the way to Eretz Yisrael, was Og Melech HaBashan and Sihon Melech HaEmori. They, by the way, also happened to be giants. And the reason why they were so strong is because they were giants. They were huge. Moshe Rabbeinu, that was 5 meters tall, didn't even reach to the karsul of Og, to the ankle of Og. So you could imagine how big was Og. If Moshe Rabbeinu at 5 meters was just by his ankle. Now, Og and Sichon were gangsters. What they did is they took all the neighboring cities around them, and they said, nobody will mess with you. All you have to do is you have to pay me, or give me what I want, and if anybody comes to war, just come to me and I'll protect you. And that's how they lived. And they lived for hundreds and hundreds of years. So, Og and Sichon had a very good track record, and people depended on them on protection. Yet, Moshe Rabbeinu, right before the Jews were going to enter Eretz Yisrael, he attacked Sichon, and he attacked Og, and he won. They both got killed, and we captured the land. So he absolutely cleared, took the toughest war, and then he cleared the way for them that they can go to Eretz Yisrael and just deal with the few nations that were there that Hashem already promised that he would clear the way for them. You can imagine that Am Yisrael went to conquer and divide the land with no casualties. After the defeat of these two big giants and these two big cities on the way to Eretz Yisrael, he began the rebuke. So they say, why would he do that? Why would he first fight the wars and then begin the rebuke? Well, one would say, maybe he doesn't have the power to finish up the job. He doesn't have the power to finish the two toughest enemies. He wants to just leave us, okay, thank you very much. It's been 40 years, it's my time to go. Here's some instructions on how to kill your enemy. He said, no, he took care of it for them. But the Sfat Emet says something incredible about the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu had to kill Og and had to kill Sichon before the Jews went into Eretz Yisrael. He says that Og and Sichon represented two klipot in the olam, two negative layers in the world. Layers meaning there's certain klipot are these negative forces that sometimes form a barrier between a person getting to a holier level. And it comes in many different forms. Og represented these two very, very evil, corrupted, and difficult klipot that were in the world. It says that Sichon, the name of the city that he was the king of, was Heshbon. What's Heshbon? Where do we make our Heshbon? Heshbon we make in the mind. So Sichon represented the klipa of Hirurim and Machshavot Ra'ot. He was part of bad thoughts and evil thinking and warped thinking. That's what he represented. And we learned that from Heshbon, what he was ruling over. Og was king over Edrei. Edrei, in Aramaic, there's a way to say hand, arm. And that's the word, let's see, Edrei in Hebrew is Zroa. In other words, I'll just translate it. So it's the hand, and the hand that corresponds to the heart. So what Og was representing was the ta'avot. Ta'avot megunot v'ra'ot. They were like very strange desires that a person needs to deal with. So Og represented the desires of the body, and Sichon represented the warped thinking or evil thinking or bad thoughts. And in order for Am Yisrael to go into a higher level in Eretz Yisrael, he had to first of all destroy those two that represented those klipot, and also free up the world from those two klipot so they can get into a higher state of being. So right after he did that, right after those two klipot were removed, both their hearts and their mind were able to move to a higher level of Kedusha. And that was why it was a very unique war for Moshe Rabbeinu. Because even though on the Pshat level, we see that he was just getting rid of two giants, but he was also eliminating two evil levels of impurity in the world. After this time, they were at the point where they are worthy of a blessing. They're worthy of a blessing of Moshe Rabbeinu. However, the job that Moshe Rabbeinu did, we actually do it today every day. Right before we put on our tefillin, we say something very interesting. If you open up a Sephardic Siddur, there's always a preparation that we do before we put tefillin. It's called a Leshem Yichud. It says Leshem Yichud Kudsham Yichud Shchinteh. If you ever read it, it says over there that when you put the tefillin of the yad, what is it for? Lanicham al azroa keneged alev. You put it up on your hand in order to correspond to the heart. Why? To defeat the Yetzer Hara that's controlling the desires. And then you say that you put it on the head. Where you put the tefillin on the head in order to defeat the Yetzer Hara that's corresponding to the machshavot and hirurim ra'im. As a matter of fact, if you ever pay attention to your tefillin, something very interesting. The one on the head has 4 lines. And the one on the arm is one big box. So they say, why would they do that? He says, because we have to defeat the ta'avot of the heart and the ta'avot of the head. So if you pay attention, we have 5 senses in the body. 4 of them are in the head. We have our vision, our smell, our taste, and our hearing. 4, corresponding to the 4 that are on the head. And then you have the one of the feel, the touch, the desire, that's on the hand. So it's corresponding, why? To negate exactly what Moshe Rabbeinu did. To cancel out those klipot that give you the bad thoughts and the ta'avot. He started it for us, and here we're just maintaining it on a daily basis. Now, what was Moshe's blessing? Very, very interesting. Moshe's blessing says, Hinechem hayom kekochvei hashamayim larov. He says, let me see if I can give you the actual pasuk. It says, Hashem Elokechem hirba etchem, Elohei avotechem yosef alechem kachem 1000 פעמים, ויברך אתכם כאשר דיבר לכם. Moshe Rabbeinu gave him a very, very big blessing. It says, Hashem Elokechem hirba etchem. Hashem, your God, He increased your numbers. V'hinechem hayom, and here you are today, kekochvei hashamayim larov. You're like the stars in the sky. The last time that the Jewish people got blessed was somewhere else. Was in Bereshit. Bereshit also got a blessing. And what was the blessing? They got a blessing from God directly to Avraham Avinu that says, Vaya zarecha ka'afar haaretz. Avraham Avinu, he gets the blessing that it should be like sand. Moshe Rabbeinu gives him the blessing that it should be like the stars. What's the difference? They say during the time of Avraham Avinu, the Jewish people were still on a very low level. They're still on the level of afar. Afar is adama, it's ta'avot, desires. So even though they were given a blessing, they were given a blessing on the level that they were on. In the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, you have to understand, this is a nation that went to a zikuch. They went through a whole process. Right now, they got the Torah, they moved up so many different levels, they had so many experiences that are much higher level. So what they get, the blessing of a higher level. You're above and beyond all the people and all of creation. Because they were in an elevated state, they got an elevated blessing. He also says over there, if you look at, if you make a dikduk on the words, there's not one word that you should pass on in the pasuk. He says, Hashem Elokechem hirba etchem v'hinechem hayom kekochvei hashamayim. Why do you say hayom vekochvei hashamayim? So this is also a beautiful chidush that I read from the Ben Ish Chai. He says, during the day, which planet is out during the day? It's the sun. It's the one planet that's out, and because it's so bright, you're not able to see what? The rest of the universe. You can't see the stars. They're still there. The stars are still there. You just can't see them because the sun is overpowering it. So you have to understand that there's always a connection between the sun and the moon. Usually the rabbis use it as a mashal and nimshal. The sun is the goyim, the moon is the Jews. Moshe is the sun, Yoshua is the moon. The rabbi is the sun, the student is the moon. There's always a correlation that you can learn from the moon and the sun and their interaction. So we see that over here, the sun is the goyim. When they're shining bright, what happens? You can't see the Jews. They're shining right now. But what? We're still shining, even though we're not visible. He says, Hayom kekochvei hashamayim. You're always going to be stars. But sometimes you're not going to be visible. That's why Jews, sometimes we have to be, how you say, neged ayin hara, undercover, low-key. We shouldn't be out there as the best real estate agents, the best car dealerships, the best movie actor, the best banker. What happens if you're shining? That's the goyim's job is to shine. They're the sun. We're low-key. We're shining, but we're the stars. We're the behind the scenes. He says, Hayom, in the day you'll shine. Meaning you don't have to be prominent and be visual. You'll still be a star, but you don't have to be visual. When the Jewish people left Mitzrayim, there were exactly 600,000. And that's men between 20 and 50. Of course, there were older, younger, and women. Roughly it was a few million. But 600,000. After 40 years in the desert, what number are they now? 6,000 ribo. That's 6 million. 6 million people now are entering Eretz Yisrael. And it says, what does he tell them? Now that you are Hashem Elokechem hirbe etchem. He made you guys. He made you guys fruitful. You're right now in high numbers. Elohei avodechem Yosef alechem. He says, and he's going to make you continue to multiply. So the rabbis make a distinction over here. Why would they use the word Yosef? Because you have to tie it to who? To Yosef Tzaddik. What do we know that Yosef is good for? Yosef is Ben Porat Yosef, Ben Porat Ale'ain. Yosef had of something very special. Ain Hara could never touch him. That's why today you can say Bli Ain Hara, or you can say Ben Porat Yosef. It's another way of saying why, because it's part of the pasuk that says Ben Porat Yosef, Ben Porat Ale'ain. What's Ale'ain? Me'al Ha'ain. That's it. The Ain cannot control you. Because what happened? Yosef was a very handsome man. Very handsome. He became the viceroy of Egypt. All eyes on him. You know what's an ayin hara? That all eyes on him and not everybody liked him. He would walk in the street and the woman would covet him. All the Egyptian, let's say, sarim shel Mitzrayim that wanted to move up in ranks. Now they see here's a slave that became now second in command. A lot of people hated him, and none of the ayin hara was able to control him. And by the way, you should know it's a very strong power in this world. Don't think it's something that your grandmother believed in. It's a very strong power that exists till this moment. So Moshe Rabbeinu was telling us, Elu avodechem Yosef alechem. He put Yosef on you. He put on you the bli ayin hara on you. Even though that you're growing and you're moving now into Eretz Yisrael, nobody's going to be able to put the ayin on you. Furthermore, says, Yosef alechem kachem elef pa'amim. He says, do you remember the story of Yosef? What was the story of Yosef? The story of Yosef is very, very interesting. He was thrown into a pit, sold as a slave. He went to jail for 10 years. After that, he gets up and becomes what? Works inside the castle with the king. Then moves up in ranks and is the viceroy, controls all of Egypt. Paro put all the power of Egypt in his hand. What a story. Rags to riches. A complete opposite. So Moshe Rabbeinu was telling him, Yosef alechem. Remember the story of Yosef? That story, that incredible story, elef pa'amim. 1,000 times you're going to get the same story. It's a big bracha. So Moshe Rabbeinu is fully loaded over here with the bracha that he's giving them. Now, if you move a little bit further, it says, Yosef alechem kachem. What's kachem? The way you are. The way you are right now, Hashem should add on to you 1,000 times. What do you mean the way you are? So, this was all an introduction to this. What's kachem? Right now, Moshe Rabbeinu is giving it to them. And you know what Am Yisrael is doing? They're taking it. He's giving them a rebuke. He's giving them a tochacha. And what are they doing? They're accepting it. So saying, since they accepted Moshe's rebuke, they didn't resist. They didn't reply. They didn't even say anything. You don't see anything that Am Yisrael said, wait, I have a case. I have an excuse. I have a crutch. I want to tell you something. Nothing. They accepted everything. They didn't negate. They didn't complain. They didn't even blame the previous generations. They didn't say, you know what? I don't know why we're getting punished. I don't say why you were telling us all this rebuke. That was my grandfather. That was my great-grandfather. That was my uncle. It's not me. They didn't say a word. They accepted the rebuke. So he says, Kachem, you're able to take a rebuke and learn from it and move on from it. Elef pa'amim. Like this you should stay. You get a blessing times 1,000 times. Which was very, very interesting. Why? Because Am Yisrael already got a blessing. They already got a blessing from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. That should be like the sand. Can you count sand? You can't count sand. You can't count the amount of sand that's in the world. Not only that, that's the blessing of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. What's Moshe doing? Is his blessing better than God's? Not only that, the stars we can count. As a matter of fact, if you want to know the exact amount of stars in the universe, open up Masechet Berachot. It tells you exactly. It tells you all the families of the stars, the galaxies, and the battalions, and how many the number is. Exactly. Down to the one. By the way, that's ancient knowledge that we have for thousands of years. NASA still looking for galaxies, Milky Ways. We've had that answer already. So stars can be counted, and there's a number, and it's limited. Sand is not. So why would Moshe Rabbeinu give a blessing if they already have a better blessing from God Himself? So this is a beautiful chidush from Me'am Loez. He says that the blessing of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is kshem ksherim, when they're kosher, when they're walking the straight and narrow, when they're keeping the Torah, mitzvot, ma'asim tovim, God's blessing comes upon them. What's Moshe's blessing? When they're not. He says, when you're not, look at this leader, when you're not in the straight and narrow, you're still going to be blessed. He's still going to be blessed. You have Moshe's blessing to rely on. Birkat Moshe. But in order to understand, there's a loophole over here. In order for you to merit Birkat Moshe, you have to be like Am Yisrael, which is what? Kachem. The way you were right there. What happened there? They got rebuked, they accepted it, they worked with it, and they moved on. That's what merited them to have Moshe's blessing. So listen to this. Knowing how to accept a rebuke is a secret to life. One of the secrets to life. To accept a tochacha and internalize it and move from it, it's one of the biggest secrets you can have in life. Why? First of all, it's a mitzvah. The pasuk goes, Lo tisne et achicha bilvavecha. It's a sin to hate your brother in your heart. Know that. You're not allowed to hate another Jew. Regardless of who he is, what he does, in business and personal, you should always take the zipper, unzip his entire physical body, and just concentrate on that glowing ball, which is the neshama inside. That's who he is. That neshama inside, that's who he really is. This exterior, it's a suit. Because sometimes we get caught up in the suit, the way he looks, the way he talks, the way he acts. Forget that. Deep down inside, he's got a small piece of God, just like you. We're a unique bunch. We're 0.0005% of the entire planet, and we're the chosen. We're the chosen bunch. You know what it is? It's like hitting the lotto. It's almost impossible to be part of the Jewish nation. If you would think in history and time, you hit it, you made it. It's a success to be a Jew. That's what you can look at. You don't discard that. It's a diamond. So it says, Lo tisne et achicha bilvavecha. That's the first mitzvah. You can't hate your brother. It says, Hocheach tochiach et amitecha. You have to rebuke, you have to give a tochacha to your fellow Jew when you see him doing something wrong. Velo tisa alav chet. Because if you don't, you get the sin. So in order to understand this pasuk a little bit more, first you have to understand, don't hate your brother. What happened? Sometimes if you give a tochacha, what happens automatically? Hate. It means you tell a guy, listen, maybe you should keep Shabbat. Or maybe, let me make it sound a little bit better. Sometimes you see your friend, he's not keeping Shabbat. You come to him, Habibi, I want to tell you, if you spend Shabbat with me, you're going to see, you'll never turn back again. What a day! What a day! Best clothes, best food, best relaxing, best connection to God. Come, let me introduce you. I know you don't know it. Come spend a day with me. He's going to tell me, oh yeah? What, you think you're better than me? You think because you keep Shabbat you're better than me? And he starts to hate you. Why? Because he thinks, because you think Shabbat you're better than me, and then it becomes sin'ah. You have to know what's the right way to introduce to somebody, the right time. So he says, Lo tisne. Otherwise you get it. Now, this hocheach tochiach et amitecha, you see that Am Yisrael merited to get the Birkat Moshe, because they accepted the rebuke of Moshe Rabbeinu. I want to read you something from Pirkei Avot. Pirkei Avot is the ethics of our fathers. You know, we spoke about this during the time of Pesach and Shavuot. In Perek Bet, in Perek Yud Gimel, in Mishnah Yud Gimel, it says something very interesting. It says, Amar lahem, tz'ur ezro hi derech tova shidabek ba'adam. So the rabbi is telling them, go out and find what's the best way that a person should cling on to. What way of life should a person follow? Rabbi Eliezer omer, ayin tova. Rabbi Eliezer has the opinion you have to have a good eye. Rabbi Yoshua omer, you have to have chaver tov. He says the best thing to be is to be a good friend. Rabbi Yossi omer, shachen tov, to be a good neighbor. Rabbi Shimon omer, haroeh et hanolad, someone who can see upcoming good or upcoming bad. Rabbi Eliezer omer, lev tov. Rabbi Eliezer comes and says a good heart is the best. We're not going to go into too much into it, but I heard a beautiful chidushim when they said, when Rabbi Yoshua omer, chaver tov. What does it mean to be a good friend? So, I read this in an art scroll compilation of chidushim. I don't remember the rabbi's names, but it's from that book. It says, what's a chaver tov? Chaver tov is when somebody can go to his friend and tell him, you're doing something wrong. A good friend, he cares about his friend. Tell him, listen, you're not keeping Shabbat, you're not keeping kosher, or your mouth is filthy, you're cursing. Not only that, the way you're acting, the way you're talking, the way you're doing business. You know, you come to a guy and you're shaking him up a little bit, you know, you're on the wrong path. He says, you know what, that's a good friend. A friend that always tells you, oh, you're the best, you're my friend, you're my homie, this and that. Yeah, okay, that's so easy to be nowadays. It's so easy to be that guy. But if you have a friend that can take you to the side and show you what's wrong with you, that's a chaver tov. They continue to say, what's really a chaver tov? Take it one step further. Is that the guy that heard the tochacha, what does he do? He says, you're right. You're right. Thank you for showing it to me. You're a good friend. And he's a good friend for what? For accepting it. Why? Because he could have done this, the typical thing. What could he have done? He could have brushed him off, created some sort of machloket. A good friend is one that points out to you that you can improve. A better friend, who is the one who accepts it. That's a good friendship. That's when you know that your friend comes, gives you a blow, you absorb it, and you're still good together. That's friendship. That's chaver tov. They gave another beautiful explanation. He says, what's a chaver tov? He says, it's your wife. He says, why is it the wife? He says, the wife is with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Who knows you better than your wife? She's a chaver tov. Why is she a good friend? Because every time you do something wrong, she's right there. What are you doing? And you go over there again. You feel like, sometimes you feel like the wife is maxing you out. Every time you turn left, every time you turn right, she's right there to hammer you about what you're doing wrong. But he says, no, that's a chaver tov. That's a life coach. She's showing you what's the right way. That's a beautiful friend. Somebody who cares about you. Every day, she wants to better you. That's a chaver tov. A person that can take a tochacha and learn from it and grow from it can activate Birkat Moshe. Now, a person who gives the tochacha, a person who receives the tochacha and moves on, or a wife, these are all great tools. They all serve a good purpose. They're all for self-improvement. And it brings us full circle to the lesson of this parasha. What's the lesson of this parasha? You're going to make mistakes in life. We saw the Jews in the desert. The first pasuk, Moshe tells us, we had over there by Har Sinai. We had over there with the man. We had over there with the Eged. You're going to make mistakes in life. You're going to make mistakes in life. You're a human being. Yes. However, sometimes someone else needs to tell you what's wrong with you. Sometimes somebody else needs to tell you, listen, you were wrong over here. You have to change your ways. Sometimes you need to have somebody who corrects you. Nowadays, it's typical that we blame everyone. Nowadays, if you tell somebody that something is wrong, they'll go around the entire planet and not take accountability. Please, because of him. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't do it. If it was her. Because of this time. Because of this thing. Excuses. They'll try to hang that blame on everybody else except to deal with themselves. People have a very, very hard time taking tochacha today. Why? Because of ego. Because of pride. Because of resistance. Today it's natural to feel that you're perfect and the blame is always on somebody else. If you're today a person that can accept a tochacha from somebody, you're on a very high level. You're on a very high level. Already, know that. If you can take your friend telling you something and you say, you know what, I'm going to work on it, you're right. I'm going to try to keep Shabbat. Why not? I'm going to try to keep kosher. Why not? I'm going to try to study a little bit more. Why not? I appreciate it. Thank you for waking me up. You're on a very high level. But if you take this tochacha and you learn from it and you grow from it and act like the generation of the desert where they didn't resist it, where they didn't deny it, where they didn't reject it, they merited to have Birkat Moshe. In addition to God's beracha. So Be'ezat Hashem, שנזכה לברכת השם ולברכת משה. שהשם ברך אתכם ושמח אתכם. שבת שלום.